Will NIO and the $1,000 challenge continue upwards, and have I finally bought back into Tesla after Tesla hitting the 370 mark, which I put as the limit for where I would consider getting into Tesla again? This and much more, you are listening to the StockInvest.US podcast, Trading Tips with Jim, as we head into week 15.
Tick-tock goes the market clock. Bulls run wild, bears don't talk. Up or down, it's a coin flip game. Buy low, sell high, don't lose your grip. Stay sharp, stay fast on this trading trip. It's Trading Tips with Jim. Win or learn, never gim. Stack your knowledge to the brim. Tune in now, let's begin. It's Trading Tips.
Last week I was prevented from making the podcast, had to attend to a personal matter, but this is just how things are. And this week's podcast will be a shorter than normal podcast simply because it's Easter. It is Friday, the exchanges are closed, and anyway, the podcast is for the following week, the week 15. I will give you my insights, what I think will happen in the market. I will go rapidly through some of the stocks I hold. Of course, I will give you an update in the $1,000 challenge. And if we rewind 2 weeks back, when I did the last podcast, I told you Nasdaq has only 9% buy signals, and that is typically where I buy, and I did. I bought shares. And maybe I was lucky, I don't know, but last week, for instance, Nasdaq was up 4.4%. Dow Jones almost 3% by 296% up for Dow Jones, and S&P 500 3.33% up last week, meaning that the shares that I bought the week before, of course, had a huge bounce up. To me, this was not a hard call at all, because I've been doing this many times, has been working every time, and it did work this time as well. The question is, will the markets continue upwards or will they continue downwards? We will get to that in 1 minute, because take NIO, for instance, that I have in a $1,000 challenge. Since I was here the last time, NIO has gone up by more than 10%, leaving the $1,000 challenge to $4,435. We are on the rollback, still below record high, but we are on the way. To determine the long-term market, and I always do that, I place my investments by trends. I look at, of course, the charts. I look at the market, I look at sentiment, I look at a lot of things, trying to form an idea what will be next. And if we go back to one of the first podcasts this year, I told you I don't believe first quarter, even first half of 2026 will be particularly good, especially first quarter. But I believe second quarter will be very strong in 2026 overall to be a very nice year. So to no surprise, I am following up on my own advices, buying as we are getting to the end. We already passed first quarter, we are on our way into second quarter. Everything is lining up how I thought it would be. But currently the fact is that Nasdaq is within a strong rising trend in the long term. Hitting the bottom, it picked up from the bottom just as you could expect at 21,000, just below 21,000 point, 20,800 or something. Nasdaq picked up. That was the bottom of the long-term trend. Picked up, so it did a natural correction up. Trend, let the trend be your friend. It works very strongly. But there is a sell signals from the long-term moving average crossing above the short-term moving average. Short-term trend is negative, so there is a lot of negative sentiment. I told you 2 weeks ago that the markets will be very volatile, and that's a typical thing before markets again are changing positions. I find it, as is currently, a high chance that markets will continue upwards from this point. But to be realistic, there is still too much negative things inside the market. Nasdaq currently is at 11% buy signals. It's very low, but it's typical where markets are very nervous. We had, I think I saw Nasdaq up above 3% one day, and now we are in the situation where we can easily see Nasdaq down 3, even 4, even 5% on a single day, because these are what the low buy signals indicate. There is very much scare into the market, but I play the long game. I follow my own advices, and for me, stocks are now much cheaper than they were in January. And since I believe that we are heading for the best decade ever for the Western society, even Southern society, the world in general, economic growth, there will happen a lot of things. I find current levels to be very attractive. I don't try to find the bottom because I don't know exactly where the bottom is. I just start to buy when I think I am close to bottom, just like I did with NEO. I did that in the $1,000 challenge, and I did a much larger stake privately, and that has turned out to be a good choice. Back to the chart again. As I said, the long-term chart is Nasdaq is picking up from the bottom of the trend. Last time it had a major signal was a buy signal from the same long and short-term moving average. Lasted for 8 months, and currently we are 3 months into the short, the sell signal. But it doesn't mean that it has to last this long. Trying to figure out exactly where it is. I love to watch the buy and the sell signals, and here they are. Across all the tickers that we analyzed, there is 17% buy signals crawling up, meaning that most markets went up as expected. Nasdaq, as I said, 11%. New York Stock Exchange 20, London 16, Oslo very high at 37, but that is because Oslo is oil-driven market, and oil, as we know, have been going very good. Currently at 112. Now it is above where I think the top would be. And my prediction, and you can hold me responsible for this, I believe oil by end of summer will be down at $40 per barrel. Currently 112. Will I be correct? Will I be wrong? Some say oil will go to 200. I say the opposite. And gold, which we have been following, and I said a few months ago that gold is overbought, should fall very hard, and has been falling very hard, but still 4,700, still high up there. I think gold will continue downwards. US dollar, which I also said that I am getting into US dollars because I think US dollars was underappreciated when it was 120. Been going the right way. 115, been touching down at 114 several times. The 10-year treasury yield, which gives an idea about where money will flow, has increased a little bit, currently sitting at 432, but that is just due to the situation in the world. Frankfurt 17% buy signals. National Stock Exchange is very low at 10, and I also said 2 weeks ago that I will start to buy Indian company, and of course I have done that. We will see how that will pan out. Tokyo 18% and Shenzhen China 13%. Overall, the buy and the sell signals are at the very lower end. They are not very low. Nasdaq is very low, meaning to me that there is plenty of companies at Nasdaq that, in my opinion, holds a good bargain at current level. And that might be some of the major, the Magnificent Seven, which have been beating very down. I'm talking about Microsoft, I'm talking about Meta, etc. Several of the huge ones have been beating down, and it might just be that these offer a very good buying opportunity if you believe that they will continue to thrive and that they will continue to pay dividends, of course. But as I said, there is no absolutely bottom. The short-term chart shows that there is room for further upturn in the short-term picture before it starts to hit. Has given a buy signals from the short-term moving average in the short-term chart. Starts to be a lot of short-term, long-term, etc. But just understand that you watch trends in periods. You have I usually like short, medium and long-term trends. That's how I try to figure out where we are, and I use short-term trends to time my buying and selling. Longer term trends I use to evaluate where I should go in. Trends you will find for the sectors, for the industries, that will give you an idea. And it was very obvious to me that energy and freight was very good places to be 2 years ago. Even, no, it has to be not 2 years, but 4 years ago, when I started to invest into Norwegian companies and doing very well, so forth. The natural reaction for Nasdaq in the short term is to go a little up and down, but overall for the next week, it's a higher chance that it will go up than down. Then it will hit the top of the trend in the short term trend, which is negative, and there should be a possible selling pressure coming up again. But I like the volume peak when the market was dropping very hard. It's exactly what you want to see. It's a sell-off. Trying to summarize all of this, try to make some sense before I'm getting into the shares that I buy. And to recap this, I'm not sure that we are finished with the downturn as is. Come again, I said in the beginning of the year, I think first quarter, especially first quarter, will be bad, but it can even last first half year. We are still 2 months away, 2.5 months away before we are into third quarter. So we are just where I thought markets would be, but I will continue what I'm doing currently, buying shares again. After selling in January, selling when it was high, getting more cash position, I am getting into all the stocks which I think offers a good buying opportunity. I've been mentioning a few of them. I said I will get into Dollar General, American Airlines. I started to buy American Airlines around $14. It fell all the way down to 10 something. I started to buy a little more at 10. Currently sitting at 10.84. I'm in a little loss in American Airlines, not by much, but very happy with the position I got there. I got Lulu as well. I got a little in Starbucks, and Starbucks is down at 90, and I have been saying that 90 is that level I really like. So now I will buy a little bit more Starbucks again. Haven't done anything in Chipotle. I bought Chipotle when Chipotle was 29, currently sitting at $33. I will sit in Chipotle, and currently it looks like it will not move very much yet. But these are some stocks which I am currently in, and I keep increasing my positions. I don't buy very seldom I buy all the stocks I want in one push. When I think there is a buying opportunity because markets are falling, for instance, I very often buy 3 times. I buy, I wait a little to see how it goes, and if it continues to fall, I buy a little more, and very often it then goes up and I buy a little more. I do something called dollar cost averaging, and it's turned out a very, very good way, because nobody knows exactly where the bottom is. I can tell you with some certainty where, based on technical analysis, etc., where bottoms are for different stocks, where there is a good buying opportunity, but it doesn't mean that I'm correct. And I very often get questions like this: my stock is down, trends didn't hold, your systems showed buy. But you have to understand that if market take a correction, let's say 3%, because of some political news or other news, trends as such, they doesn't hold. The value of the trend and all the technical indicators, they are lost once there is a major news in the short-term picture. But this is something we call noise. And noise is very, very tradable. And most successful traders, they trade on noise, where the situation is outside what is statistical significant. And that means, for instance, if a stock is way below the trend, it usually offers a buying opportunity. If it's above a trend, it offers a sell opportunity, same like it is in the upper trend or lower trend, because it is a noise. Or the stock fall very hard without a company-specific reason. Sometimes companies say that they have to lay off 16,000 people because less sales, and you have a correction down. That's a natural correction because the market is adjusting the price to the new company events. But in cases where there is a scare in market and people just sell off, it's just noise and it's highly tradable. So these are some of the stocks which I've been trading a little in Big Bear AI, Rigetti, etc. And Iowa Technologies. Like I said, I sold Iowa Technologies above 40 again. This is the third trade in Iowa Technologies. Currently sitting at 13.23 after I was lucky to buy it again, just above 12. Been doing 2 trades from 10 to 14, raking in 40% each time. It's been such a good. Maybe I will be lucky and do the third trade as well. Bitcoin 66,900 around. And as you know, I bought Bitcoin when Bitcoin was super cheap. And been buying and selling a little bit, and last time I bought was when Bitcoin was much higher than current level, because I said I think it is a long-term buying opportunity. I've been buying a little bit more, but now I am happy. The last 3 buys are still combined are still in loss, so I'm sitting with a loss of the last 3 buys in Bitcoin, but I have a long profit from the trades which I did around 30,000, etc. So I'm very well in profit overall. But the last few purchases, 1 is below current level and 2 is above, meaning I'm currently sitting in a slight loss. Bringing us into the very last item of this Easter podcast. Let's call it an Easter podcast. And if you haven't liked the podcast, please do so. Make sure that it survives and subscribe to the channel, of course. Well, I remember we have an Easter sale on our services at stockinvest.us. It's a good chance to get a very nice price for our services if you like them. Like I always say, you can use 95% of everything we have for free. There is 5% which is under subscriptions. Most of you will not need it, but if you want in, now is a good time. And new products are coming out very, very shortly. Some of them will be under subscription again. This include helping you analyzing your portfolio in a more professional way. Last item of the topic will be the $1,000 challenge, where I bought into NIO some time back. Been buying in and out of different stock, but the last purchase a long time ago, feels like an age, was NIO. I argued why I would buy NIO, and I've been arguing over and over and repeatedly, even boring for myself, why I'm sticking into NIO, because I said I don't see the high potential in the market. And from all these stocks, NIO stands out to me to be a good choice. High potential with less risk, and that's the place where I want to be. NIO was bought into the $1,000 challenge at $5.10, currently sitting at $6.30, up 23.53%, setting the $1,000 challenge at $4,435.57. So yes, $1,000 has there absolutely grown, but I'm not happy. I want to do much more. And I have this very, very strong feeling that we are finally getting into a place where things again will be interesting. I don't control the markets, and in negative markets, it's very hard to do good trades. It's 10 times easier when markets are good, but it's hard to do in good trends. And what you want to do is increase your profit, reduce your losses. And reducing losses is taking less risk when the market risk is higher. So that was the argument why I would sit in NIO, because I saw less risk, higher potential upside, been panning out very well. And I think NIO will just continue upwards. Personally, I think NIO will go back to $30. It was at $65 high. I think it will go up to 30. I have a target over the next, I believe it's 13, 14 months to go all the way up to $20. That is where I have my personal target. May not happen at all. NIO been trading up and down between 4 and 6 and 4 and 8 for some time now, but it has broken the very long falling trend that it was in, going horizontal, showing all the signs that it is about to change for a final, more long up-term streak. You may wonder why, and that is because NIO have been pushing positive quarter results. They just released a car sales report showing they sold more than the markets expected. And with oil prices high, and again we get the focus on electrical vehicle, etc., we are just back, and they have gotten so much better than when they were first introduced. Market got crazy, priced all of them high up. Oh, and that reminds me, so I almost forgot. What about Tesla? I told you that I bought Tesla last time. It was a super downturn, followed all the way up to, I think it was $458, either 458 or 484, not sure. I think it was 458. I at least made 70-80% on the trade. I sold it. I gave you arguments why I sold it, and I said I will rebuy when Tesla is under 370-ish, because that, I believe, starts to become a good buying opportunity. And currently Tesla is sitting at $360, and yes, I finally started to buy a little Tesla. Tesla may absolutely go down to 300. I have no idea exactly where it will stop, but I'm following up on what I said, and I always wanted to get back into Tesla. I just thought they were too high priced. So I'm buying now, and if it continues down, I will buy a little more, because I have a certain amount of money which I want as a part of my portfolio invested in Tesla. The other company that I also wanted to get back after selling Nvidia $208 is Nvidia, and I bought it super cheap last time. It was a huge fall, sold at 208. Gave all the arguments. I think it's way too high priced, and I think if it gets below 150, I would buy. But Nvidia is holding the ground, currently sitting at $177, not exactly where I want. Was lower, but not as low as I wanted to get in. But I'm monitoring Nvidia closely, and I hope and believe that I will get back into Nvidia as a part of my portfolio. Sum it up, NEO stays in the $1,000 challenge. NEO is currently at $6.30. $1,000 challenge at 4,435.57. You spent 21 minutes listening to me. In today's podcast, the only thing that remains is wishing you a very, very nice Easter. And more than anything, I hope that your portfolio will be much greener by the end of next week than it was at the beginning of the week. Until then, have just a super time. Bye.
Welcome to StockInvest.US Stock Analysis. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.US. By using the information you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.